Your GPA is gonna get deflated and basically just tanked down. So unnecessarily difficult and competitive. You barely made it to Berkeley, and now everyone being depressed. Snakes. People are just calling Berkeley students ugly. Berkeley may not be the best for you, actually. What you should know about UC Berkeley. The truth about UC Berkeley. What I wish I knew before coming to UC Berkeley. All of the above. My name is Kevin, and I'm currently in my third year / last year here at UC Berkeley. And I came in 2019, right before the pandemic and everything happened. And I'm back here in person for my last year. So I thought I'll just make this video in order just to kind of do like a mini rant about my observation and experiences here at UC Berkeley. So I don't know how many points I'm gonna get to or how long this video is gonna be, but it's basically gonna be me ranting about UC Berkeley. So the first thing, the prestige and kind of like difficulty of UC Berkeley. So is it like the hardest school in terms of classes? I think it really depends on you and your scheduling and the classes you choose to take along with what is required. So yes, the major and the intro and the fundamental courses, aka weeder classes, are more difficult. But I mean, certain electives for major requirements or just like other classes like breath and just random classes outside your departments are usually like more interesting and easier. Just really gotta do your research before choosing classes and making your schedule. So there's actually something called Berkeley time, so you can see like the past grade statistics. For example, there's just like one class, class A, and then one class, class B. Both of these fulfill your requirement, but you only need to take one of them. But class A has better reviews on like Berkeley time and just online and just an easier workload, or maybe it's more interesting to you, while another is more difficult. Maybe if you're not a history person, history based, or if you're not a numbers person, numbers based. So like honestly, it just depends on you, on which one you're gonna choose, and then go from there. I mean, obviously it would be ideal if classes are interesting and useful to you, but you gotta choose wisely and do your research. That actually brings me to taking classes outside your major. I think that not a lot of people know about this, but since yes, a lot of upper division and elective classes are reserved at first during the beginning of enrollment period every single term, but they're only usually reserved until like a certain point, usually like around the adjustment time or right before classes start. Then the classes will open for enrollment if there's space. So the trick is actually just, if you really want to get into a class but it's reserved, put yourself on the wait list and hopefully you're in the top 10%. And if there's space open in the class, or if people kind of drop the class later on, then you could either go to your professor and ask to get enrolled into it, or you'll be automatically enrolled. So I think this is it's a risky kind of thing to do, but if you get into the classes you want, it's kind of worth it. So I think that's something I wish I knew earlier, so that I can take the classes I want earlier on into my academic career. Another thing is grade deflation. So I think it's like something that's very known here at Berkeley, where your GPA is gonna get deflated and basically just tanked down. So I think this is kind of true to a certain extent, in terms of you're just not gonna get a 4.0, and that's okay. I mean, it's just honest truth. Maybe there's like a few, maybe handful of like thousands of people that might get a 4.0, but not everyone's gonna get a 4.0, and that's just the truth. This isn't high school anymore, where it's like classes are easier, I guess, in terms of grading, just because the grading here is more harsher, but again, depends on the class and especially the professor. Because I do know like some professors are harsh graders for no reason. Sometimes there are school policies or even major policies that tanks down your grading. So I had a professor once where he told me that usually people in the class don't get an A. But another thing was, I had another professor for another class in economics where it's kind of like a policy to have grade bins. So basically the whole class, and then there's a dedicated allotment of grades. So 30% of the class gets an A, 30% gets a B, 20% gets some sort of C, 30, 60, 70, 80, and then 20% gets the rest, I think. Yeah, something about that. So that would help you if you're doing bad in the course, and it would just kind of push you up so you don't fail. But if everyone does well, that kind of brings your grade down. So even though if you pass all your assignments, get good grades on your exams, you could probably end up with a B or something too. So that is very much possible and happen. And the last example that I know of is the Haas Business School actually has like a grade curve for every business class. So where the average mean grade is 3.6. So that could either bring your grade up or down depending on if you do good or bad, or if the whole class does good or bad. But usually from what I heard, some people do struggle from that, and then I haven't personally. Maybe I got lucky, but that is something that I've noticed too. And Berkeley students are also known for just everyone being depressed or just very much pressure and stress. I honestly think that people make it a personality, which is very kind of wrong too, but just very not. Like, it's actually known that people brag about how much stress they have, how much work they have.
Oh, I have to like study for like 5 classes, I have to do like 10 projects, I have this and that and that.
People like brag about that and think that it's actually good, which I just find crazy, because why are you proud that you're literally finding burden and stress and pressure on yourself? Which I think it's definitely like a culture or kind of a personality of this school. So I definitely see that people are just overly stressed about classes, which is like, are you forgetting that you're kind of here to learn? The point is to learn, not to like necessarily get a good grade. I mean, yes, there are factors, maybe you're kind of going for grad school or anything, but at the end of the day, it's like, you should be focused more on understanding and learning and just getting what you can out of it, rather than like hoping for a great grade or just getting that 4.0 GPA. So I think that's definitely a big thing of how people kind of made it a personality to be depressed and stressed, because yes, people are stressed, but I feel like they intensify that themselves and being like, oh yeah, I need to be more stressed, or yeah, oh that person's more stressed, okay, no.
Okay, oh, are you stressed? No, yeah, I'm more stressed, but yeah, whatever, totally.
Another thing is the unnecessary competition here at UC Berkeley. This is very much a big thing in terms of kind of putting pressure and stress on students in terms of creating this unnecessary competition environment. So one thing I've noticed or want to rant about is actually the clubs here. So there's a lot of clubs, mainly like business clubs and consulting clubs, and oh my goodness, there's like a whole process just to kind of apply and get in, and it's not an easy process either. It's like you have to like pass the resume screening, you have to do social nights, you have to do coffee chats, you have to do rounds of interview, meaning like at least 2 rounds of interview just to get considered to get in, which I think is nice in terms of like, okay, maybe like these applicants can practice the real life in terms of experience, but they make it so extra and so unnecessarily difficult and competitive, where 100 people can apply, but maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 will get in. So I just think that's so sketchy, because we also hear stories of people bringing their own friends or people they know into the clubs, which leaves even less space. And I just don't understand why it's got to be so selective in terms of applicants. It's like, how do you expect me to have all these skills and pass all these interviews when that's the very thing I'm supposed to learn in the club? It's like I have gotten more interviews from applying to jobs, both big and small companies, than getting interviews at these clubs. So that kind of shows you how competitive the clubs are. But I do know there are more like relaxed clubs that are basically anything that's not consulting or business clubs, even though there's so many consulting and business clubs, all of which are selective. But honestly, it's just kind of it's annoying and it's very much disheartening seeing how these clubs that are meant for people to kind of know each other, meet new friends, develop their skills are just so selective, and most people can't get into it to very much learn the skills and meet new friends. So that I think that's very sad, even though I kind of understand that they're trying to replicate the real world, but that's not the real world. Like no, who do you think you are? No. And I also think like the school kind of not intentionally creates competition, but there is competition. So one example would probably be like the business major. So we do have a business administration major here at UC Berkeley at the Haas School of Business, but you have to apply your second year, and again it's very much a resume check and a essay. So basically you're applying for college all over again. You barely made it to Berkeley, and now you got to compete against Berkeley students. And I know like a lot of people don't get in. It's hard to get into that business major too. And actually business students are actually known as Haas snakes. So is that true or not? I can't say, but I will say I haven't had the best experience with Haas students, just because I have met some and I have worked with some, in whether my business classes or before they became Haas students. And let's just say some people are just willing to not help each other. But there are a lot of students here that will be kind of sketchy and kind of shady. I've definitely noticed that. Not everyone, but usually like, yeah. Oh, and another thing. So there's something called Berkeley goggles, which is kind of talked about both in and outside of Berkeley. And basically, it's just saying that students at Berkeley are not attractive. And what I'm assuming is that people are just calling Berkeley students ugly in terms of comparing to like the, I guess, Western standard or something. Honestly, from what I observe, I think that there's a lot of international students. I think that people are comparing or having that Western ideal standard and comparing it to the international students, which is just, I mean, overall, I guess students here. I mean, the thing is, this is Northern California, and just there's like a lot of like technical STEM students. So people here just don't care how they look, or just don't care to present themselves in a more kind of aesthetic manner. So people just wear what they want. Most people just don't dress up, wake up and just go out like that. So I think that's kind of true to an extent, but again, I think that's like, looks is a very subjective thing, and there are like a lot of couples here, so I guess some people do find other people here attractive. But yeah, I mean overall, this isn't like LA or just New York where people dress up, but people here are very much student looking, is what I'll leave it at. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's really much about finding the right fit for you. I just want to say this: you should pick the school that is right for you, or that you have a gut feeling about, not necessarily just because of the name or the prestige. So I think that's something I want to pass along. Yes, the name and the prestige can help you in terms of maybe like professional opportunities and stuff like that, but it can also not. It just really depends on you. So maybe, for example, if you're more towards arts, like film or entertainment, that creative side, Berkeley may not be the best for you actually. Like I don't know too much about their departments, but I just know that it's not as known around the world, especially maybe when compared to like Southern California, like UCLA, USC, or maybe even like the East Coast, like NYU. If you're into that, maybe UC Berkeley isn't right for you. But if you're into like maybe computer science or like natural resources or engineering, then maybe UC Berkeley is right for you. So that's definitely something to consider. Is that school right for what you want to learn? Another thing would be the other little aspects that I talk about, like the safety. Is the location aligned with what I want? Is the school's kind of overall vibe matches with my vibe? Like, I think you could do also tours if you want to know, but not everyone could do it too, but totally understand. But basically, you should do your research and pick the school that's right for you, not necessarily just because other people say it's good or just because of the name or anything. So I think that it's definitely up to you to find out which school is right for you, and it's a learning process. It's okay if you pick the wrong schools. There's always the option of transferring, but at the end of the day, be proud of what you accomplish and just realize that, hey, you're already taking the next step into higher education. You should pat yourself on the back for that and just be proud and grateful. So I think that's pretty much all I can think of for ranting right now, and I hope this video kind of gives you an idea of what it's like to be at UC Berkeley. But a big disclaimer is that this is my personal experience. This is one of literally tens of thousands of students. So not everyone's gonna think or see or experience what I have told you. So this is just my personal experience. It's not a guarantee. It's definitely not a guarantee that everyone will kind of have the same experience as me. I just wanted to share it here. But that is it for this video. So I hope you learned something out of it, and thank you for watching.